to Credit Webcast Center following the conclusion of the session. Thank you for joining us. Once again, welcome to this special event, Examining the Future for Women-Owned Businesses, a discussion with Representative Sharice Davids of Kansas. Before we begin with today's webcast program, please note that this webcast and all answers provided by the participants are meant solely for informational purposes and are not to be considered substitutes for legal or tax advice. Business loans, loans under the Paycheck Protection Program, and other federal lending programs are not guaranteed and are issued at the sole discretion of the lender in conjunction with SBA or other governmental agency guidelines as applicable. The views expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the views of Vista Credit, its affiliates, or partner companies featured in this webcast. We will begin by taking a look at today's agenda, and then we will introduce our host and guests for this afternoon's presentation. The webcast will last approximately 45 minutes and will cover a number of important agenda points across a range of speakers, including our special guest, Representative Davids herself. We will hear from the AWBC about their mission and activities that they are doing to support women-owned businesses, and we will also hear from Vista Credit's own Rohit Arora about the most recent study that Vista Credit has published on women-owned businesses in 2023. And with that, I will now welcome our guest and host for this afternoon's webcast, Vista Credit CEO, Rohit Arora. Rohit will introduce our other guests and will kick us off with a poll for today's attendees. Rohit, if you can, we should have you on camera in a moment here. Fantastic. Thank you very much, and take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Charles, for kicking off this webinar. Wishing everybody a happy Women's Day. I'm very proud of the fact that we have been doing this study for last 7-8 years now, and we have seen some big sea change in the way women have been doing their businesses, and still some persistent trends over the year. I will also take this opportunity to welcome our guests, including the chairperson from the Association of Women Business Centers, and we are very proud to be working very closely with the AWBC to support women-owned businesses who are looking for access to credit, who are looking for growth tips, and who are also looking to navigate the turbulent times that we are in right now. Besides them, I will also acknowledge the support of our partners at CPA.com, Paychecks, Hartford Insurance, Chubb Insurance, Popular Bank, HSBC, and First Republic Bank, who are joining us in audience today as our special guests. With this, I will want to encourage everyone to participate in an audience poll today, which we will discuss the findings, and it will also set the stage for our further discussions. So if you see, we are talking about what are the common challenges as a business owner today. Is obviously interest rates and the financing costs have gone up quite significantly. Inflation and supply chain disruptions, which are still there. All of us were thinking that by end of 2022 that will go away. What is the impact on the revenue as well as the economic impact? Hiring right employees is still a very big challenge, as we see the labor markets is extremely tight. And then, as a business owner, what are the things that you're looking forward to do? So I think it will be very interesting to get people's and our participants' view on this, and it will give us a timely pulse on what a lot of business owners, and especially women-owned business owners, are thinking about it.
You should now see on your screen the polling question to kick off today's webcast. You will receive the first question here, which will be open for an additional 15 or 20 seconds. And then you'll receive a second question allowing you to self-identify for the purposes of diversity and inclusion. That will show up momentarily for those who have already voted. Again, this poll will remain open for about another 10 seconds while we gather the data, and then you'll see a self-identification question before we proceed.
So at
this time, you'll see the self-identification question, and this simply allows us to ascertain the patterns for those who choose to identify as women-owned or minority-owned businesses in their survey responses to the previous question. And of course, this data remains purely and simply anonymous and will only be used for the purposes of communication about this webcast and the women-owned business study. You'll have about another 20 or so seconds to fill in the questions on this poll, and then we will be able to proceed. Okay, thank you to all who have voted. Rohit, we will be able to queue up the results here for you in just a moment, and then you can proceed.
Yeah, so as we look at it, I will also like to introduce our first speaker for this afternoon webcast, Corinne Gobel, who's CEO of Association for Women Business Centers, which is a registered non-profit organization, works very closely with women-owned businesses to secure economic justice and entrepreneurial opportunities for women by supporting and sustaining a national network of over 100 plus women business centers, what they're called AWBCs, all across the country. So Corinne, thank you for joining us today, and we're really delighted to bring you on board for a very special webinar that we do every year.
It is such a pleasure to be with you. Happy International Women's Day to Rohit and to the team at Biz2Credit and everyone here today. Congratulations on doing this study again. It is monumental in its importance, and I look forward to having a discussion about it. Oh, wonderful. Now we see some poll results.
Exactly. So I think what we are seeing is actually pretty significant findings, but not very surprising. Obviously, interest rates and financing costs are at the top, and what we are seeing, especially in last few days with the data coming in and with yesterday's and today's testimony by Governor Powell, is that this is going to get worse. So obviously, there's a big concern. I think as COVID has gone away, the supply chain disruption issues have lessened quite significantly, and at the same point of time, the economic uncertainty has really gone up. So I think these are very telling findings of the poll, and pretty much I would say expected. But at the same point of time, everybody was thinking that 2022 would be a year when things will hit the bottom, and 2023 is when things start coming back. But right now, I think the picture is pretty much mixed. So obviously, we had 76% are women-owned businesses, which is a very significant number of business owners who have participated in this poll. And as we see, 41% of them are minority-owned businesses, and then there are another 18% who are other small businesses, because typically, the problems or the challenges that small business owners face, irrespective of the gender race or color are pretty much similar. The only thing is that it gets accentuated if you have certain kind of background or certain kind of businesses. So I think in that sense, this sets the stage for Corinne to talk about what they are doing at AWBC, and also talk about some of the things that they are doing which can help in these I would say interesting and challenging times right now.
Super challenging, but thanks to your poll, I now know the makeup of our audience, and I feel very much at home here with 76% of the businesses being women-owned, and that's really why I'm here. And truly, I know when we get deeper into the study, we're going to be talking about the persistent barriers and access to capital, which again goes to purpose and why AWBC was founded. I do have a couple of slides that I'm going to walk us through just to give some awareness and exposure to some wonderful resources that small businesses, women-owned or otherwise, all have access to. And we at the association, we really exist to provide the support for those centers, for those women business centers. In fact, we have a network of 150 of them across the country now. And so in this Women's History Month, we're excited to be making history by having now grown the network to the largest it's ever been. Last year, we could not say that we had a women's business center in every single state, plus in Puerto Rico. And so with that, we're able to serve hundreds of thousands of women. And in 2022, our location served upwards of 90,000 clients, helped start more than 3,000 new businesses, and helped our clients access $1 billion in capital. And that's certainly the biggest impact we've ever measured across the entire network. So again, our role here is to provide the support for those centers. And we wanted to share an example of kind of what's going on in these women's business centers, such as the one up in Seattle, Washington. And so Susan Peralt runs this organization, and actually they're also linked to the Women's Business Center in Alaska, one of our newest centers. But she has a client there that offered this testimonial about the kind of impact and the kind of training and things that a women's business center is providing to their clients. And so we give this to you to just give you a flavor of what a women's business center can offer in terms of the training around your HR systems like staffing and payroll, your technical assistance like marketing and financial forecasting, and those things which are going to be able to support you as you're moving toward perhaps accessing a commercial line of credit, commercial financing, because if you're really like most of our clients, the small businesses of the women's business centers, you've been leveraging your personal credit in order to help propel your business forward. And that's going to hold you back, and it's going to hold your business back. And so working with a women's business center, the purpose there is to help you grow your business by helping you access capital in a way that you never have before. This has really been an enduring problem. And thankfully, the women's business centers are finding that access to capital is being made possible for women through training and education. And so for that, we've also provided, we at AWBC provide you a way to get to us, to get connected to the AWBC so that we can help you find a women's business center so that you can get access to free and low cost counseling and training and other resources like even sometimes grants. Probably the number one question that a small business will bring to a women's business center is, how can my business get a grant? But really, small business grants are pretty rare, and getting an access to another form of capital is probably going to be the best bet for your money. And so we want you to come to us at Hope 2 Women, which is HOPE, the number 2, women, sort of following the Biz 2 credit formula, I guess, in our name. I was just realizing that today, hope2women.org brings you to us for some free counseling, or free training, but also you can locate a women's business center there. And like I say, there's one in every single state. And even if there's not one in your city, we can make sure that you get access to some virtual counseling and training so that you can leverage capital and maybe not be a part of some of the negative side of statistics that we're still seeing in this access to capital arena. So With that, we welcome you to our website, and we'd love to help you grow your business. Thank you so much for having me today.
No, thanks for that. And I think this is important because one of the things that we have seen with small business owners is that they are very time starved and also resource starved. So any of these online resources which help them to do any kind of uh, capacity building as well as ability to get better at what they do and access to credit is a big challenge for small businesses as a whole, but especially for women-owned small businesses, that's even a bigger challenge. So any of these resources, what my experience has been that they are really helpful. And what I've also found is that women-owned businesses actually are much more interested in the overall education piece and trying to understand the intricacies behind the scene kind of stuff. That if I have to go and apply for credit, what are the things we need to do? If we have to become more credit worthy, how do we do that? So I think in that sense, it's a very interesting and a good resource and also extremely timely out there. And so I think that's an important resource. And I hope that everybody who's attending the webinar and those who will watch it later can use a resource like this. So with this, it's my pleasure to welcome Representative Davids. She represents the Kansas 3rd Congressional District. So happy Women's Day, to you. And as I said, we are very proud of hosting this webinar and doing this report for last 7-8 years. And we have seen a sea change in where the women businesses are run, but also some challenges which have been extremely persistent. And so Representative Davids actually introduced the Women Business Centers Improvement Act in 2019 to extend the support provided by the Congress to the AWBC program and increase the funding, which I think was a very, very good move, especially because as I've seen personally that these centers and resources play a very big role in helping small businesses and especially women and minority-owned small businesses. And being a Native American woman, because the challenge is women first and then minority, so it gets even more accentuated. And having worked in the Department of Transportation, the kind of inflation that we have seen in the last 2 years in logistics, transportation, and some of the other areas, that and supply chain issues, that impacts almost every business out there. So I think it's a very timely time, and thanks for your time. I know you are taking time out from your busy schedule. So I will, so it's an honor to have you.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here. Thank you so much. Thanks for the introduction. I know we're gonna get to some Q&A, and so I don't want to take up a ton of time, especially after such a great introduction. But I do, just want to touch on a couple of things that I think will help when it comes to the Q&A. One, I have the honor of representing the 3rd District in Kansas, which is, well, actually it says right there on the thing, the Kansas City metropolitan area. But one of the reasons that I point that out is because I do think that we have one of the most vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystems in the country. We have a lot of great folks working on this stuff, including the Women's Business Center for Kansas. It serves the Kansas City metropolitan area as well as the entire state of Kansas, and partly because of that, I knew that women's business centers needed to see that support in real time and through action, which is why I have introduced the Women's Business Center Improvement Act multiple times. I am looking forward to us getting that reintroduced in this session of Congress. I'm working with the Small Business Committee and my Republican colleagues to make sure that we get that done. And I think that the work that needs to happen, particularly around making sure that access to credit, access to these opportunities are, the work that's happening there is so important. And my role as a legislator, in my view, is to listen to the folks who are living the day-to-day realities of that work. And I think, you know, whether it's you all or the folks that I meet with on a day-to-day basis in the district or when I'm here in DC, it's certainly enlightening, and I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. So I'll stop there because I'd love to be able to take questions.
Yeah, so I would like to welcome back our partner, you know, Corinne Goebel, who's at Association of Women Business Center, and she will ask the first question to the Congresswoman.
Thank you. And I'm going to repeat this every time you give me the microphone. Happy International Women's Day. I'm enjoying this day so much, and thank you so much for your support of modernizing the Women's Business Center program. We know that your priorities are for small business, and in particular our women-owned small businesses. So I'm interested to know, on behalf of our women's business centers and the women-owned businesses across the country, what you see in terms of any policy adjustments now needed, kind of in response to not only our enduring challenges around access to capital, but some of the nuances of change that we're seeing in our economy.
Yeah, I think that first of all, happy International Women's Day. And also thank you for the work that you've been doing. It's always good to see you. And I only got to hear a little bit of the presentation you were giving, but I definitely appreciate all the work that you and your colleagues and all the folks who are part of the Association of Women's Business Centers is doing. And I will look forward to continuing to have that be part of my priorities. And I think that, you know, when it comes to, first of all, the success of women entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs is, in my view, an essential part of the success of our entire economy. And I think that in addition to, you know, reintroducing the Women's Business Center Improvement Act, which I don't even know if everybody already knows what that is. So I feel like I should probably say that. So the Women's Business Center Improvement Act would, yes, absolutely look at ways of modernizing women's business centers, at least from the federal perspective, by one, reauthorizing the program, by two, increasing the funding level by $13 million, and then by establishing an accreditation program that would actually be run by the Association of Women's Business Centers, because it turns out, guess who probably knows the best practices and ways to make sure that those centers are running well. Because we already know that even with lack of increase in funding over all these years, the women's business centers are, and I hope you gave the statistics on all of this, but like the number of jobs that have been created, the number of businesses that have been created, the number of people who have been able to like make a difference in their community is like, if you want to talk about federal programs with a great return on investment, this is it. And so I think that, yeah, here we go. I love this. This is awesome. Like, we didn't even plan this this thing here in terms of having slides ready, but you did. So this is awesome. I appreciate it. And then, so that's one thing. The other things I think are probably really important for us to do is make sure that the Small Business Administration and anyone working with helping our entrepreneurial ecosystem and our economic development folks, like the EDA, Economic Development Authority, like that the resources are actually going into the agencies in the way that they need to, because the number of small businesses or people who are trying to access some of these federal programs who are having to wait because there just are not enough hands on deck at the SBA, or you know, and I'm not going to pretend that we don't have some things to look at when it comes to, I know that there were a lot of people who struggled when the guidance, and I'm just going to do this, the guidance was coming out around things like Paycheck Protection Program, you know, and we were able to actually learn a lot from the folks who were reaching out and saying, hey, it's really hard for us to access these programs. And in the second tranche, we tried to make sure that CDFIs and smaller lending institutions, community banks, were specifically enumerated because they have relationships with generally better relationships with smaller businesses or first-time businesses and that sort of thing. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try not to. I won't make the next answer so long. I get excited. You know, we've seen each other enough for you to remember that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we got quite a few other questions, but we just curated one or two more questions. I know you're short on time. So I think one of the key issues have been that, you know, how do you how the government funds there's a better access for women-owned businesses, you know, for them to apply. And I think one of the things that we are starting to see is that with the IRA getting introduced, the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for high-tech small businesses to get a lot of government support, but there's very little awareness right now about that itself. So it will be interesting to, you know, hear, like, as a congressperson and also as part of the government, you know, what are you guys thinking about making the outreach better, the overall awareness, you know, not more.
Yeah, so I think that a couple of things in terms of making sure that women-owned businesses have the opportunity to apply for various federal programs, and sometimes it's straight up like lending or guarantee programs like the SBA 7A loan program, or you know, things like the small business investment company programs. Those kinds of programs they're really important, and too often people just don't know about them. Yes. And I want to say, like, I was almost going to say like one of the best kept secrets, but I don't want it to be that, so I don't even want to call it that. I want it to be that people know about women's business centers, that people know about the SBIC program or 7A loan programs, and I think that some of what I've been doing and some of the folks I'm sure who are here today have been doing is one, just trying to get the word out. In the Kansas 3rd, some of what we've been doing is working with the local, you know, Johnson County Community College hosts the Small Business Development Center, and, you know, constantly doing, whether they're events or other forms of outreach. We have a newsletter that we try to make sure to let folks know about resources on. But actually, this is an area where I always love to hear from people who are like boots on the ground working on this stuff. If there are opportunities that folks have struggled to get their foot in the door on, that would be something good for my office to know about. And, you know, if folks have tried to, for instance, access the federal contracting dollars, then and there's like, you're having a hard time doing that, please reach out, and I'd love to help figure out how we can make it more accessible for people, because I think part of the problem is we don't know what we don't know. And you know, so we're trying to make sure the dollars and the funding is there for these programs and for procurement opportunities for women-owned, minority-owned businesses. And you know, we're trying to get the word out, but I also recognize that maybe sometimes members of Congress aren't the best ones at making sure everybody knows what's happening. We try.
No, and yeah. Thank you for your time. And I think it was a pleasure and honor to have you here. And again, wishing everybody a happy International Women's Day.
Yeah, happy International Women's Day, and also thank you for the flexibility on timing, because they called votes, I think, at the original time I was going to be on. So I appreciate you guys.
That's fine. Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
So now, so again, thanking Representative Davids, and I think she mentioned some very important points, what the government is trying to do, as well as the way there could be a deepened partnership between the government and the private sector. And now, as part of our final discussion today, I would like to share some of the insights that Biz2Credit has provides every year as part of our annual women-owned business study, and which will be available on our website later today. So if you want to go, you can go on biz2credit.com and can go in the knowledge center, and there you can get an access to the full report with all the data. And I think we had some very interesting findings around that what has happened in last 12 months. So this is almost like State of Union for women-owned businesses that we release every year. And this has some very interesting things. Like what we have seen is that there are fastest growing number or proportion of women-owned businesses, and some of these findings are not surprising. Texas, we have seen the most number of small businesses growth, irrespective of the gender, over last few years, and that continued. Georgia is becoming a very big hub for small businesses, which is very good. Again, a very business-friendly state. Florida, again, has been a big growth engine for a lot of small businesses. California being the largest state and being so resource rich, obviously they figure among the top 5, and then followed by Illinois, which has seen some migration, actually net migration of small businesses, but still a large resource rich state, which offers a lot of opportunity, for businesses to grow. So obviously, what we have also seen is a trend which has been going on for last few years, that typically the women-owned businesses, their personal credit scores are less than the men-owned businesses, and their revenues are also less. So typically, what we have seen over the years, that right now it's like 44% less than men-owned businesses, and that's because of the kind of industries they are in, and they are much younger businesses. And then what we are seeing is that what that also does is that impacts access to credit. But there have been some very positive findings also, this year, which has been that there has been more formation of newer small businesses by women compared to last few years. That's why the average age of businesses in our survey has gone down. But that's a good news, because it has just shown that there is more entrepreneurial activity coming in. And also what we will see further is the kind of industries that women are in, like services, retail, trade, accommodation, food services, healthcare. And the good news is that some of them are doing very well, and in 2023 we expect them to do well in spite of high inflation and recessionary headwinds now that are coming in. So we feel, and we can see from data, that a lot of women-owned businesses are more well positioned, especially based on the industries they are in and the location they are in terms of weathering the next 12 months, which in our view is going to be pretty challenging. And at the same point of time, the good news should be that as inflation comes down, that has been a #1 issue for businesses. And once the interest rates really stabilize later this year, that should also help a lot of small businesses to plan forward, because right now there's a lot of uncertainty around that, and that impacts a lot of business owners. Obviously, what we see challenges which have been pretty consistent has been low approval rates, There's a lot of paperwork, slow processing time, transparency is not there in a lot of products set of the business. And I'm very proud to say here today that, in partnership with CPA.com, in our CPA loan portal, we have recently launched the SBA lending programs. So you can go to your local CPA, you can encourage them to join CPA loan portal, which is again managed by Biz to Credit and AICPA. And now you can start applying for SBA loans directly from there up to 250, and then even the whole 7A program. And we have built full integration back into SBA systems to reduce the amount of paperwork, the time takes to do the loans, and the amount of aggravation it costs typically in a normal paper-led channel. The other thing it also does is that it gives you access to a lot of banks, directly. So you don't have to worry about who is the lender and how those lenders are going to work with you, or how do you locate. I think the projections for 2023 are extremely significant. So while we are seeing a lot of headwinds, there's a lot of opportunities coming up. I would say the biggest opportunity is with the Inflation Reduction Act and CHIPS Act, and we are launching a new R&D tax credit financing program this year. So we'll encourage businesses to, come back on our website, start looking at it. We are already offering the ERTC tax credit financing program. So anybody who has applied for ERTC, still waiting for money from IRS, can come to us and we can lend you money against that, and that's interest only. So that's going to help you with your cash flow. Later this year, we are going to launch some of the tax credit financing program under the Inflation Reduction Act and CHIPS Act. So we are getting prepared for that. We are working with large payroll companies who actually offer them and get all the payroll data from them with the borrower consent. Obviously, SBA loans, as I said, we have launched this new platform, which we are very excited about it, and we will encourage all the business owners to access that through their CPA network initially, and then we'll open it up to business owners also later this year. Fully digital SBA lending platform with banks out there, so you don't need to do any physical paperwork anymore. Obviously, interest rates have gone up quite significantly over the last 1 year. SBA lending programs, which were in the range of, I would say, 4.5% to 5% last year, the interest rates have more than doubled. And as we sit here today, with Federal Reserve is going to increase the interest rate again in March, and now a lot of people are expecting the terminal rate to be close to 6%. So that means that there will be significant increase in the SBA lending costs. So obviously, combining that with some of the tax credit financing programs will be good. And then, obviously, most of the business lending is variable rate lending. So you need to plan for this. So if you have borrowed money or you're borrowing money, then you should expect that this year your costs are going to keep going up. So how will you manage your cash flow? How do you go about, doing things in a smarter way? That also means that you should have more conversations with your CPA, with your accountants, with the women business, centers out there, and we are providing a lot of online tools, a lot of online webinars, and also helping businesses to get access to credit in various shapes and forms, whether it's SBA, whether it's alternative lending, whether it's the tax credit financing programs. So this is getting very, very important to plan for this year, because as I said, there are some good indications. Inflation hopefully will come down, labor market will stabilize, but having said that, the interest rates will go up. Everybody's expecting the economy to slow down quite significantly, so that's going to be a challenge. And I think being prepared is the most important thing. What we say here is don't be scared, but be prepared. So that is something very, very important, right now in this environment, and be fully aware about your macro environment, what is happening out there. Because anything that happens with oil, with growth in China, with China reopening, or war in Ukraine is impacting the US economy right now. And everybody gets impacted, whether for good or bad. So I think that's very important. That's something that we cannot. The world has become extremely global. So I think we just have to be very much aware about it, that anything which happens in any part of the world is going to impact us now. Having said that, we are very focused on providing even a better platform, better tools to the business owners out there. And as I mentioned earlier, the AWBC as a locator on their website that can help you guys to find the local center for assistance. And at Visto Credit, we are very committed on financing, on helping you to build a better business, on educating you, on helping your CPAs and accountants to get access to credit for you guys and for themselves also, and also being at the cutting edge of both financing products and technology.
Rohit, thank you very much for taking us through that women's business study for 2023. And thank you, of course, for hosting today our session with Representative Davids and with the Association of Women's Business Centers. We look forward to seeing you back as a host on our upcoming webinars featuring additional members of Congress and other guest speakers that we'll continue to be promoting through various channels and on the biz2credit.com website. Once again, thank you to all who have joined us today. We do have a few messages from our partner organizations to share before we conclude officially today's special webcast event. We want to make you aware of resources that are available to business owners and are provided by the hosts of today's event. As mentioned earlier, the AWBC has a locator on their website, and you can also visit hope2women.org to connect with a women's business center. The association is focused on increasing the use of women's business centers, and women's business centers can provide assistance to business owners on everything from business planning and startup resources to financing and leadership coaching, and including recent programs that the AWBC has secured in connection with the State Small Business Credit Initiative from the Treasury Department. So we encourage any women-owned businesses in our audience today to either visit awbc.org or hope2women.org to take advantage of these resources, connect with a local women's business center, and learn more about their programming. And of course, at Biz2Credit, we are committed to providing financing to more small businesses and helping business owners secure the best funding options for each and every project or capital need that they may face. With technology that makes business financing easy to understand and easy to access, Biz2Credit is helping tens of thousands of small businesses every year to increase cash flows and succeed. Biz2Credit's financing products include fixed rate financing options, which business owners can qualify for within 24 hours of submitting an online application, and that application takes just 4 minutes on average to complete. You will be able to create an account on biz2credit.com or by contacting us at our hotline visible on the biz2credit.com website, where you can submit an application today. If you had any questions that were not addressed in today's session, please do post them in the Q&A section as we conclude today's webinar. We'll leave the stream running for an additional minute or two, just in case people do want to enter those questions there. A member of the Biz2Credit funding team will review those questions and may reach out to you one-on-one to provide assistance or connect you to further resources. Of course, you can also locate resources that were mentioned in today's program on biz2credit.com, especially in the Knowledge Center section of the website, where the most recent women-owned business study has been released just earlier this afternoon. We will provide a few more minutes for anyone who had questions to enter those now, and then the stream will disconnect. We want to thank again all of our guests for joining us for today's special event, Examining the Future for Women-Owned Businesses, a discussion with Representative Sharice Davids of Kansas. Today's webcast was presented by Biz2Credit, featuring the Association of Women's Business Centers. Thank you very much. And thank you once again for joining us. The session will now conclude.